Hello, everyone. This is Rebecca Green for the Whinypaluza podcast, and I am very excited today because I get to talk to the lovely and wonderful Jillian Gabrilik. Did I do that right?
You did. That was fantastic, Rebecca.
Oh my gosh. I'm joking around with Jillian trying to practice her name before we pressed record.
Oh, the
And
Buffalo Polish crowd will be very, very satisfied.
I feel so content that I did that right. And I want to tell you a little bit about Jillian because we're all going to learn so much from her. She is a health coach, a keynote speaker, and life balance enthusiast. As the founder of Soleo Health and Wellness, it's her mission to help people find clarity and purpose by teaching them how to reclaim their intuition in a world of noise. And we all need that. Blessed to be a mother of four children. I have three, and it's crazy, so I can only imagine four. She's dedicated a portion of her business to teaching our youth about the importance of prioritizing the 5 pillars of health and wellness that nurture a quality of life. And I'm so excited to learn from you. I have so many questions for her, but I want to start with tell us about your journey. What inspired you to start Soleo Health and Wellness? I would love to know.
Absolutely. I would love to share. So basically, it goes back to my childhood. I was raised in a family of 7. I have 4 siblings, and my parents they raised us with a very simple lifestyle. We didn't have any of the bells and whistles. My parents, it was a one-income family. My dad was a police officer, and my mom was able to stay home with us. So their priority was just keeping life simple. But I always remember life was just so good. We had very, very, very fond memories of the simplicity of life, doing things like camping, doing picnics at the beach, riding our bikes, visiting family on a regular basis. We really didn't do anything extravagant, but all of my memories are happy memories. So that's what it all comes back to. As I went through my life, as you know, things get a little more complicated and the layers pile on top of each other. And what I noticed was I was craving that simplicity of my childhood again. So this was a process of recalling what it felt like to have that simple life, to be able to step back and, reflect and have that stillness in my life, and realizing that I no longer had that in my adulthood. So this was a process of me coming back to that childlike state of being able to have space to really live my life, to reflect on the choices that I was making so I could teach my kids to do the same thing. And that's where Soleo Health and Wellness was born. I used to be an educator, and when I had my kids, I took some time off, and that gave me the opportunity to refocus my education on health coaching. So that's kind of the story of how it came to be.
That is awesome. And I can't imagine stillness with 4 kids. So we have a lot to learn from you.
Well, I am my own best student, so I'm just learning
Right?
all the skills that I need to be able to strike that balance in my family, and it's all about trial and error.
Absolutely. 100%. And it's crazy how busy people are. I mean, back in my day, my kids make fun of me when I say that. My parents would let me do one thing at a time. Like you're going to take like a dance class, a
Yeah,
gymnastics class, and kids are taking multiple things, and people are spinning in so many directions right now.
absolutely, absolutely. I had the same experience where we got to choose one activity at a time.
Yeah.
And if we had to get a ride there, we often had to find a solution to get there ourselves with carpooling and such.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so true. Things have changed so much.
They absolutely have, yes.
Yes. So let's talk about reclaiming intuition because I love that concept that you talk about. Can you define it for us and tell us why it's important?
Absolutely. So I can use the example that you just gave me of, children being loaded up with so many activities to the point where they don't have any free time. And I think that if we use our intuition as parents and we take a step back and really reflect on why we're putting our kids in so many activities, we would realize that a lot of those decisions are potentially based on fear and, fear that our kids won't be able to keep up, that they won't be able to be successful in life. So we want to give them all of the skills needed because we love them, and we overschedule them to make sure they get to that point. So these decisions are made from a place of love, but we also have to recognize that sometimes it's our fear where we just feel like we need to pile our kids up with all of these activities so that we're ensuring they're getting the skills they need to succeed in life. But I think when we use our intuition and we really think about our why, we can understand that if we give our kids the space to breathe for free play, that they really do learn the life skills that they need on their own in a lot of cases. And obviously, I was an athlete, my husband was an athlete. We know that there's so much that sports and activities offer a child and an individual, but there's also so much that simplicity and the space to make their own choices for free play, for really connecting with other kids, that gives them skills as well that they're going to need to be resilient in the 21st century.
That is such a good explanation, and I never realized that we're doing it from fear. As you're explaining the concept of fear and why we're doing it, I've never thought about it that way.
Yes, and like I said, it's tied with love. We know how much, college education costs. So we look at the opportunities that our kids can get, the potential for them to get scholarships and such, and bursaries, and we want them to be able to achieve those things. We want to set them up for success.
Yeah.
But I think there's a fine balance between that love of wanting to support our kids and the fear of feeling like we failed them. So the intuition part and being still allows us to really tune into what worked for us when we were young, what made us resilient as individuals. And when we trust that wisdom that we have, that is a guiding light for our lives. It's not necessarily how the world is telling us we should raise our kids and feeling guilty if we don't have them in 5 activities at once. It's more tuning in and recognizing what we know works because we have that internal wisdom.
Oh, we're so much smarter than we give ourselves credit for.
We are, definitely. And when we take the step back and give ourselves space, we realize how much wisdom we have.
Oh, it's so true. And I was just telling my friend that sometimes I have to say no for my kids, just knowing what they can handle.
Yeah,
It's like how much can they really handle in their schedule? And I will even say to them, don't forget you need time for homework too,
yeah,
because we forget about that part.
yes, yes. And time to do nothing, time to do nothing.
Time to do nothing. Yes, we totally forget about that one.
Right,
Yes,
right.
so
And
smart.
our kids do count on us to help them create those boundaries in their life, because sometimes they're not able to do that on their own. So they might not like you for it in this moment, but I do believe, like I did, they'll reflect on your parenting when they're older and they'll remember these lessons that you taught them.
Yes, that's an excellent point. Well, I'm dying to know what the 5 pillars of health and wellness are. Can you teach us what they are?
Absolutely. So I've narrowed them down. My course that I've built has 12 pillars. And this is a whole progression. It starts with your mind, and then we move into your body, and then it moves into the spiritual side of things. So would you like me to discuss that program, or would you like me to discuss the 5 pillars that I believe we need to focus on for our youth to flourish in their health and wellness?
Let's do the 5 pillars for our youth.
Okay, sounds good. So the first one is nourishment. We need to make sure that our kids are properly nourished. When we do this, they're able to thrive. They're able to focus. They're feeling well rested. They're feeling healthy and balanced in their internal system. And we see that lived out in their external behavior. If we're giving them the foods that they need to live life well and to thrive, then they're going to have that that step ahead of people who aren't focusing on that nourishment. And the tricky part is it's really hard to do this in our culture because it's become it's become normal for kids to eat processed foods that aren't really nourishing their bodies. And I mean, we're all guilty of it. We're very busy. We want that fast food. We want the food that you can just throw in the oven because you have the next event coming. You have to get these kids to practice. You have to get, homework done with these kids over here. But if we start prioritizing nourishment for our kids by cooking whole foods for them more often, the goal is 80% whole foods, then they're just going to feel better all around.
Yeah.
So that's the foundation, is just making sure that your kids are nourished and feeling good inside their bodies.
That makes sense.
Yes, and then the next one would be regular movement. I don't like calling this exercise because I feel like exercise gets a bad rep. And with kids, they really do exercise without us asking them to, if you just give them the space to do so. So it's recommended that kids ages 16 into adolescence get 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise per day. And I know that a lot of kids check this box with the sports and activities, but sometimes they don't if they're not in season of the sport, or they're just not in an active phase of their life and the dead of winter and such. So looking for ways to keep your kids active and moving their bodies is another pillar for their health and wellness.
Oh boy.
And this isn't supposed to be intimidating. These are just guidelines that
No, this is great.
recognize, if your child isn't going outside for recess at school, and then in middle school and high school, they kind of phase that out. Just looking for opportunities to get them to move their bodies. And the best way to do this is to lead by example and do it with them. Find ways to go as a family. Go for a bike ride when everybody gets home from work or after dinner. You can go for a family walk. You can start an activity together where your family's together. So you're doing an activity, but the whole family's going as a family unit. So you're checking multiple boxes. Say you go and you start pickleball together. You can go to the local park. So you're outdoors, you're playing a sport, you're moving your bodies, and you're spending time together. So it's checking multiple boxes at the same time. So if you can look for ways to do that, it makes it a little more attainable.
I have to trick my middle child into exercise because the other two are great. And the middle one, I'm like, come on, let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
We just got a pickleball net. I'm like, come on, let's go
Oh,
outside and
you
play.
did. Oh,
We
that's
did.
fun.
I have to like trick her. And we have a Y membership. I'm like, will you go work out with me?
Yeah. Oh, that's so good that you do that though. So where do you play pickleball?
We have it for our driveway. We literally move the pickleball net across our driveway and we all play.
Oh,
We just
wow.
we just got it a couple weeks ago.
That is so cool. I might have to steal your idea.
Yes. It's from
Yeah.
Amazon. Everybody go get
Oh,
it. It's so fun.
yeah, that's such a great idea. Now everyone's gonna have pickleball nets. Instead of having the basketball nets, everyone's gonna get the pickleball nets.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's a great
Okay.
idea.
No, where were we? Number 3.
Number 3 is sleep. So sleep is so important, especially for kids and teenagers, because their brains are still developing. Sleep is essential for them to function in life, for them to be able to learn, and again, for them to thrive. So I know there's a range for different ages, but I'm assuming the parents that are listening, the kids are likely between 6 and 16, something like that.
Yeah.
Between ages of 6 and 13, they need to be getting 9 to 11 hours of sleep a night. And then ages 14 to 17, 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night. So this is helpful to think about, just having those guidelines for your kids. You can pull this up on any Google search and show it to your kids and say, hey, listen, I want you to feel good during the day. I want you to be able to focus at school and to be able to, show up for your activities full of energy. Sleep is the most important thing for you to be able to do that. It allows your body to recover. So how can we make this happen? And another important piece to talk to your child about is making sure that they're not on their screens when they're going to sleep at night. So a great way to ensure this is to make sure that all phones, devices, iPads are plugged in the kitchen when the kids go to bed. And it's also nice to have at least a 30-minute window of no screen time before they go to sleep. That allows their body to kind of get into that rest mode where they're able to actually fall asleep when you put them to bed.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And my daughter discovered that on her own. I didn't have to tell her. She's like, I sleep so much better when I put my phone away. I'm like,
Yes.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
that's amazing. And that is Soleo. That's what I'm trying to teach people. We need to teach our kids to listen to their bodies because our human physiology is it's the same across the board. No matter where you live in the world, human physiology is the same. And when we learn to listen to these messaging systems, like when we learn to listen to the symptoms of things that are going wrong in our
Yeah,
body,
yeah.
and we listen to what your daughter listened to, which is pay attention. You know the answer. You know what feels good and what doesn't. Let's do more of the things that feel good and less of the things that make you feel, rotten. So I think that's a great thing that you're having those conversations with your daughter. It's so important
Mm,
to teach her how to think about life and make decisions for herself.
yeah, and so much easier than fighting with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Challenge them to find the solution, right?
Yes,
That's what they're
yes,
going to have to do when they leave your home.
yes, exactly. Okay, I keep cutting you off. Where were we? Number four.
Fourth pillar is sunlight and nature. Okay, and so there's something new called nature deprivation disorder. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, well, it's becoming more and more prevalent with our young kids and adults because we're not getting our kids outside enough. So I want to say this is a very simple thing to accomplish with your household. It's just prioritizing at least 60 minutes of outdoor nature time and sunlight every day. That doesn't really sound like a lot when you look at a 24-hour day and you're just spending one of those hours outside a day. And obviously it's ideal if you have more time outside, the more the better. But
Yeah.
if you're prioritizing that as a family, and again, you can layer this. That's why I talked about if you go to the park to play pickleball or just in your driveway, you're checking that box and you're moving your bodies and you're checking the next box that I'll talk about, which is supportive social community, spending time together in person. So sunlight in nature, we underestimate the value of getting vitamin D, of getting the fresh air in our lungs, of learning how to be resilient when it comes to weather changes. A lot of times today, kids complain that it's too hot, it's too cold. They really can't handle the temperature around them or the changing weather. If they're outside, they're going to be more resilient and they're going to start craving being outside more.
Interesting. That is so interesting.
Yeah, I kind
My
of gave you, go ahead, sorry.
my kids complain about the temperature, so this is very interesting for me.
Yes. I always tell my kids, if you complain it's too hot outside, I'm going to turn the air conditioner off. So you want to be outside because it's going to be cooler out there.
That's so smart. That is very smart. Well, we got a pool last summer. So if they're going to complain that it's too hot out, I'm going to say, let's go in the pool. Let's
Yes,
go.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great point. I always say to my husband, if we are making investments in toys and such, let's invest in recreational stuff that takes the kids outside, that gets our family outside. So
So
when you're
smart.
gifting for birthdays and Christmas and such, think about different activities that you can do outside of the family and then start purchasing equipment to get your kids and your family outside rather than screens and devices that keep your kids inside. So it's just a different way of thinking about gift giving.
Absolutely. I told my mother I'm going to send my nephews a pickleball net.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. My son just had his birthday, but I might get him a late birthday gift so we can have
Yes.
that option
Yeah,
for our family.
such a great. It's been so fun.
Yes,
So you're a mother of four. You are busy with work, busy with motherhood. Everybody listening needs some help with balance. How are you balancing all of this?
that's a great question. It is an ongoing process, I want to say on a daily basis. But the way that I balance this is I start with those 5 pillars.
Mm,
Those have become the priority for our family, and everything else has to work around those pillars. I also make sure that we are aligning ourselves with our personal values. And this is what I talk a lot about a lot with Soleo is knowing what your values are. When you know what your personal values are, and what the values of your family are, every decision should be based on those values. And those values will likely align with the pillars that I explained. And when you base your decisions on the values and the pillars of your life, you realize there's not much space for much more. So
Yeah.
you're inclined to say no more often, and you're more confident saying no because you know right away if something aligns with your values and if it's going to prevent you from living out those pillars of your life. So that's the big picture, the macro version of trying to
Yeah.
keep that balance.
It
Just
makes a lot of sense, but can you give us an example of one of your values that would guide you?
yes, absolutely. So for us, it's quality family time. And with 4 children, as you know, it gets very difficult to spend that quality time as a family when we're shipping our kids out to different activities every evening. What
Yes.
happens is when all the kids are involved with activities, different activities, you lose that family dinner, which is a priority for our family as much as possible to be sitting around that dinner table, sharing a nourishing meal together. So that allows us to say no to certain activities because if we're splitting up on a regular basis every evening, then we lose that quality time as a family. Another day that we really protect with that value is our Sundays. Our Sundays are our low-key family days where we throw away the to-do list and all we focus on is friends and families, really building that community. So any sports that kind of pull that away from us. Like we did try hockey one year and it was every Saturday and Sunday morning and it was 6 months straight and we didn't have a weekend. We completely lost our minds because the whole family just, we never had that day to just rest and relax. So we
Yes.
said no to hockey and I'm Canadian. That was really difficult for me to do. But that's one of the examples as to how you can use your values to be able to decide what you bring into your life and what you say no to. And when you teach these values and build these values with your family and your children, then they understand why you're saying no, because it's protecting these things that are important to your family.
That's really helpful. Yeah, that's a great example. Now, we want our children to know the importance of health and wellness. How can we, how can we teach this to our children? What can we do as parents to really show them the importance to prioritize their health and their wellness?
That's a great question. And again, I'm trying to, fine tune this every day in my own life. But I think
Yes.
the the most important thing is to lead by example.
Mm.
If we are driving ourselves into the ground and we are completely stressed out, we're not creating any time in our lives to take care of ourselves, our kids are going to witness that. They're paying
Yeah,
attention. And
it's
even
true.
though we're doing it because we want to provide for our families, because we care for them, they're seeing that you're making that more important than actually taking care of your health and wellness. So I think the most important thing to do is to really establish those pillars of health and wellness first, and then somehow try to structure the rest of your life around those pillars. So you're showing your kids what takes priorities, what things are the non-negotiables. So whatever that looks like for you, I know everybody's schedule is different, but when your kids see you prioritizing your health and wellness and then you're inviting them into that world, then that will become learned behavior for them. And they're going to remember that when they're an adult and they're structuring their own life around their schedules and such.
Absolutely. My youngest will get very, I'm trying to find the word. Cranky is probably an understatement. But she will get to this place, and what I realized being her mother and observing her is
Right.
I started to notice, like, did you eat lunch? You know, and
Yes.
she's 11, so I will tell you sometimes I make her food and sometimes she makes her food. It's not consistent. And I had a conversation with her and I said, "You feel and act so much better when you prioritize eating 3 meals a day." I'm like, you need 3 meals and a couple snacks, and you have to focus on your food intake because when she skips meals, she's a bear.
Yes. Well, we are too, right? We can't
I,
blame. I know I'm that way.
I definitely have been known to skip meals, which I've been working on, but Yeah, I do not get as cranky as her, but we all need 3 meals a day, all of us.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And you're teaching her to pay attention to her body, which is that's what I'm talking about. So what can we do for our kids? We need to teach them how to pay attention to what their bodies are telling them and having simple guidelines, like even having a checklist on the fridge, a dry erase board. It could be so simple. Hey, did you eat well today? Did you move your body? How well did you sleep? Did you get a good night's rest? Have you spent time in person with your friends today? Or has it all been digital? Right? And did you get outside? Did you soak up the sun today? So it could be a simple checklist just to help our kids be aware of these things that really help us to thrive as individuals.
Well, yeah, and I will get on them if they come home with a full water bottle, I am pissed. I
Yeah,
am like, "Did you drink any water at school today? This is not okay."
right, right. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so just paying attention to their behaviors and
Yes.
helping them
Yes.
along the way.
So everybody listening, how can they support Soleo Health and Wellness and get involved and help you grow? And what can we do as listeners?
Thank you so much for asking that. Yes, so this is a very new business I launched in August, and I'm trying to balance family life as well. So it's really, really helpful for people to just be on board by paying attention to how the business is growing and the direction that it's moving in. The best thing you can do right now is to join me on Instagram at Soleo Coaching and go on the website and just learn more about it. I'm making a lot of changes and things are developing as time goes on. I'm going to start some keynote speaking in front of student groups and adult groups, just teaching them about striking this balance in life and really embracing simplicity. But my ultimate goal is to start a movement where people are choosing to opt out more often, where we're creating a community around this decision to live an alternative lifestyle. Because right now I feel like there's no alternative for our kids. There's no alternative for the busyness. There's not a lot of people who are saying, no, I'm not going to do this. This doesn't feel right. We're too busy. We need to slow down. And I think that's because we haven't built a community around making those decisions. So the more people to jump on board and to start this movement, I would love to call it a movement at some point of people, parents who are making the decision to opt out more often so that they can start prioritizing these foundational parts of raising a family and raising kids and helping them to flourish and thrive.
Sounds amazing to me. You have something called Fog to Freedom that we can get to help people gain clarity. Can you tell everyone what that is?
Absolutely. So Fog to Freedom is an exercise that I designed when I was a college athlete, when I was regularly feeling overwhelmed by all the to-dos. I had, a full-time academic schedule, I had a full-time athletic schedule, I had a part-time job, I had a boyfriend, I was trying to maintain relationships and a social life. So what I would do is I would just do this epic brain dump where I got everything out of my head and put it onto paper. And once I got it out of my head, I felt fantastic. And then I would go through and categorize, organize, scratch things off the list, and I would feel so much better. It was instant relief to my anxiety and the feeling of overwhelm. So the Fog
Yes.
to Freedom, it's a free giveaway for anybody who visits my website or anybody who's interested. If I meet anybody who feels overwhelmed, I say, go and do the Fog to Freedom activity because that's going to give you instant help within an hour. So it includes a meditation, and then there's this exercise that helps you through that process, the brain dump process, and leaves you feeling like you have a strategy moving forward to start chipping away at all those things that are floating around in your head that are making you feel anxious and overwhelmed.
I couldn't agree more. I was just telling my husband last night, I'm like, my homework assignment for you
Yeah,
is that you start writing every day because, we all have so much inside of us that wants to come out,
yeah,
get it
yeah.
out on paper.
Absolutely. Even if you have a little sketch pad beside your bed so you can empty your brain, especially as moms, we go to bed and we're thinking about, oh my gosh, I forgot to do this and I need to do that. And that prevents us from getting that restful sleep. So get it all on paper, put it on a little scratch pad beside your note, beside your bed, and that will kind of relieve that stress because you're getting it off your mind, yet it's recorded somewhere. You can come back to it later.
I totally agree with that. I know it helps me. So you talk to so many people and you hear so many obstacles and challenges that they're having. Any challenges that you've been hearing that you've helped them with that we haven't talked about? Because I know we've talked about like the constant busy schedule. Anything else that's coming up with the people that you're talking to?
Yeah, so I feel like what's coming up is people are feeling like something is off. They're feeling like many people are overwhelmed and anxious right now. And I feel like what I'm helping people with is giving them permission to say no, to step away from that noise and to start thinking for themselves again, instead of just jumping in that fast moving river and getting pulled along the way. I'm teaching them to step out of the river and stand by the side of the river and just be still so they can decide what path they want to take and what makes sense to them. So I think it's just giving people permission and empowering them to pause and just reflect on why they're making all of these decisions and to remove them from that autopilot state and to help them to step into a state where they feel like they're choosing a life that they love rather than life being imposed on them and not really enjoying it along the way. So
Oh
I
my
think
God.
that's what it comes down to. So
Yeah.
that's, I always say it's a choice and it's an invitation that is always there. And it's a free invitation. So helping people to just to recognize that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I know that, I got to meet Jillian at a health and wellness event. And we were talking about test stress, you and I. And I was telling Jillian about my daughter's test stress. They have so many tests. And she puts, all three of them put so much pressure on themselves to get good grades. Any advice to help our children with the pressure they feel at school?
Yes, absolutely. So I love talking to students about this, and I actually talk to many adults about this as well. And it comes down to trusting that you were gifted with skills and talents that are unique to you. And nobody else was created the same way that you were created. And that because you have these unique gifts and talents, there is a place in the world for you. It doesn't always come down to who's going to have the best test scores. There's a place that exists for people who don't do well on tests and for everyone along the way. So I think in our culture, we really do reward people for accelerating at school and for getting, top of the class grades. But there's really space for everybody in our culture. And we need people with all different skills to live out all these different functions in our culture. So when we teach our kids about their unique gifts and talents, I think that we give them space to just believe that there is a place for them. And when we do that, we kind of take that anxiety away from performing all the time at this perfect level that is unsustainable for anybody.
Mm, that's such a good explanation. I needed you an hour ago. I was just at school volunteering, and my youngest comes up to me and she's like, I don't think I did well on my math test. And I was like, I'm trying to teach my children that I am proud of them for the studying and the effort more than I am from the results.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's the first thing she said. I don't think I did good on my math.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
oh boy. Oh boy.
that's a great approach. I always say, well, did you do your best? Oh,
Yes.
then you did
Yes.
fantastic. And you did fantastic.
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes. And then helping them to find success in other areas of their life aside from school. And to
Yes.
show them that they can feel that reward in other areas of life as well.
Yeah, that's perfect. That is so good. I mean, I've asked you so many questions. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you would like to share?
Oh, that's a good question. Not really. I would say I would just love for people to know that Soleo is new and it's growing and it's here to serve our community. And if you're interested in any coaching, that's what I'm available for, but also workshops and such. And if you're interested in me just coming to talk with a group to share this message, that is my passion right now. I'm trying to create a community of people who my kids can, grow into as they get older, who are talking about, using this language and giving them an alternative to this fast-paced, world that we live in. So anything that, any ideas, any needs that are out there that I could fill a void for, definitely reach out and let me know what I can do to help.
Or where can they go find you?
So you can go to my website and I offer a complimentary 30-minute consultation there. That's the best way to just have a conversation. And I love having conversations. I learned so much about the needs of our community through those conversations. That's a great way to contact me. You can also message me on Instagram if you want to join me on Instagram, Soleo Coaching. And you can email me at jillian@soleocoaching.com.
Well, and we will put this in the notes, but I want you all to know it's Sileo and it's Jillian with a G.
Jillian,
right?
Yes, maybe I should touch on the fact that Soleo means be still, and it's a Latin term for be still. And Rebecca was kind enough to purchase one of my bracelets that say be still. It's just a simple reminder that if you're feeling anxious and overwhelmed and you don't know what to do, to just take that pause and to turn inward and understand that you have the wisdom, you have the answer. You just have to slow down so that you can hear the answer.
So helpful. I knew I needed to talk to you today. I was telling Jillian before we started recording that, first of all, I need a new word for May because I call it madness, and that's not good. That's what I'm calling it. But it's been so busy that she's just the perfect person to be talking to today and to be putting out to the universe today. And I knew I was going to find this so helpful.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been helpful for me as well. And it's been such a pleasure to meet you, Rebecca.
I know. I loved getting to meet you and I loved getting to talk to you. And I can't thank you enough for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
This is Rebecca Green, and I want to remind everyone to spend every day laughing, learning, and loving.
Thank you for tuning in to the Whinypaluza podcast. If you like what you heard, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. While you are there, leave a review. I love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.